Hello students, Callie Daniels here. In this video, we will continue to solve linear equations by clearing fractions and decimals. In example 1, we're going to solve each equation with fractions or decimals as coefficients. In part A, -2/7 r plus 2r is equal to 1/2 r plus 17/2. Now, we can choose to leave the fractions in here, or we can choose to eliminate them, and that's what I'm going to show you at this point in time, all right? In order to do that, take a look at the denominators, 7, 2, 2. Determine for yourself what the least common denominator is. These are both prime numbers, so the LCD is the product, 7 times 2, or 14. So we're going to take and multiply each side by 14. Here we go. 14 times the left-hand side. I'm going to write out all my steps on this problem. So we've used our multiplication property of equality. Next, we will distribute the 14. I'm going to write this step out as well. So we're going to multiply 14, in other words, 14 over 1 times -2/7 r. Then we'll multiply 14 times 2r. And I'm going to go ahead and perform that multiplication. That's 28r. On the right-hand side, we'll take 14 times 1/2, and I'll write that out. 14 over 1 times 1/2, that's 1/2 r, and plus 14 times 17/2. And again, I like to write that 14 in the numerator so we can see how these fractions line up. All right, now as we multiply, let's divide out our common factors first. 7 divides into itself once and into 14 2 times. Multiplying straight across, we've got -4 over 1, in other words, -4r. We multiplied to get our 28r earlier. On the right-hand side, half of 14 is 7. We can show that also by saying 2 divides into itself once and into 14 7 times. Multiplying straight across, we have 7 over 1, or 7. That's 7r. Last product, 2 divides into itself once and into 14 7 times. Multiplying straight across, that's 7 times 17 is 119 over 1, or 119. Combining like terms on the left, 28r minus 4r is 24r. That's equal to 7r plus 119. Let's subtract 7r from each side. 24r minus 7r is 17r. And dividing each side by 17, okay, 119 divided by 17 is 7, and you can use your calculator for that. Let's go ahead and check this one. Remember that you can always check these proposed solutions. Check it in the original equation. So -2/7 times 7 plus 2 times 7, is that equal to 1/2 times 7 plus 17/2? And we just substitute it into that original equation. Multiplying is -2 plus 14 equal to 7/2 plus 17/2. We get 12 on the left-hand side. On the right, adding in the numerator, 7 plus 17 is 24. And 24 divided by 2 is indeed 12. So that proposed solution checks out. Therefore, we can summarize and say that the solution set is 7. in part B. This is a little bit more complicated. I think I'd like to use the distributive property first before I clear the fractions. And so let's do that. Negative 5/6 q minus q plus 1 is equal to negative 1/4 q. 1/4 of 80 is 20, so that's a plus 20. So let's look at this one, and if we want to eliminate the fractions, then focus on our denominator, 6 and 4, and ask yourself, what is the number that both 6 and 4 divide into? And the smallest number that they both divide into is 12. Okay, we call that our least common denominator, or LCD. You know, could we multiply each side by 24? Because 6 and 4 both divide into 24 also? Sure. It's just going to leave you with larger numbers, and we like to work with smaller numbers. So 12 is our best choice. Let's multiply each side by 12. This is our multiplication property of equality. Multiplying each side by the same non-zero number. Now we'll distribute. I'm going to write 12 over 1 times negative 5/6 q minus 12q plus 12. Distribute on the right. I'm going to write this as 12 over 1 times negative 1/4 q. And 12 times 20. Let's see, 12 times 2 is 24. So 12 times 20 must be 240 as we tack on a 0. Now let's multiply. Okay, I'm going to divide out my common factors first. 6 divides into itself once, into 12 2 times. Multiplying straight across, we've got negative 10 over 1, or negative 10q, minus 12q plus 12. Let's see, on the right-hand side, 1/4 of 12 is 3. This is going to have a negative symbol in front because that's 12 times negative 1/4, isn't it? 4 divides into 12 3 times. Plus 240. Combine like terms. Negative 10q minus 12q is negative 22q. Plus 12 equal negative 3q plus 240. Almost there. Hang with me, okay? This is a long problem, but we're going to make it. All right, let's add 3q to each side. I'm going to move q terms to the left. Negative 22 plus 3 is negative 19q. At the same step, I'm going to subtract 12 from each side, moving the numbers to the right. 240 minus 12 is 228. And let's divide each side by negative 19. 228 divided by negative 19 is negative 12. You can use your basic calculator there, okay? That is going to check out. If we substitute it into that original equation, you can do that. The solution set is negative 12. So here we're just determining what the LCD is, multiplying through by that number, and dividing those denominators out to make these equations a little easier to solve once we eliminate the fractions. Now we can do the same with decimals. For example, in part C, we've got our 0.75 minus 3.2 is a 0.55 minus 0.5x. Now I want you to notice that, you know, in our first terms on both sides, we've got 2 decimal places, don't we? So I'm going to choose to multiply each side by 100, thereby moving the decimal points 2 places. Okay, So we're going to take 100 times the left-hand side. And 100 times the right-hand side. Multiplication property of equality. Okay, we're not changing the solution by doing this, right? Just simplifying the equation a little bit, making it look nicer, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and distribute here. 100 times 0.75 moves that decimal point 2 places, gives 75x. And 100 times 3.2, moving that decimal point 2 places, gives 320. On our right-hand side, 100 times 0.5, 5 is 55. And 100 times negative 0.5, moving that decimal point 2 places, okay, that gives 50x, and that's a negative term. I'm going to move my x terms to the left, so I'm going to add 50x to each side. 75x plus 50x is 125x. Same step, let's add the number terms to the right. 55 plus 320 is 375. And if we divide each side by 125, that's going to go into 375 3 times evenly. That's going to check. I'll leave that up to you. You can substitute that into the original equation. Yields a true statement. We say the solution set is 3. Now with our last problem, this is a little bit more complicated, and I'm going to choose to just leave the decimals in there this time, okay? You get to choose how you want to go about solving these, whether you want to eliminate decimals and on the previous page eliminate fractions, or if you want to choose to just leave them in there, okay? That's up to you, but just show your steps, okay? So I'm going to leave decimals in here this time. Okay, so I'm going to multiply 0.98 times 12. I'm using a basic calculator. That's 11.76 and minus 0.98 times x. On the right-hand side, multiplying 0.96 times 12. Gives 11.52. This is an example of a basic calculator that you're able to use on this course. Notice that it's got your plus, minus, multiply, divide, some memory keys. It's okay if you've got a percent or a square root key, but notice that this does not have the plus minus key. All right, you're going to have to know how to work with your sign numbers. And understand the concepts there, okay? Let's see. I'm going to subtract. Now, 92 minus 98 is a negative 6, isn't it? 0.92 minus 0.98 is negative 0.06. X. If we want to check that, I'm going to subtract 0.98 minus 0.92. Larger absolute value minus the smaller, that difference is 0.06, and then we know to make that negative, don't we? Because the 0.98 is larger, negative 0.98 is larger in absolute value than 0.92. Next, let's subtract 11.76 from each side. Let's see how my calculator is going to deal with this. 11.52 minus 11.76. It actually gives us our negative symbol there, doesn't it? That's a negative 0.24. It's negative 0.06x on the left. Last step, we're going to divide each side by negative 0.06. All right, I've still got my negative 0.24 in the calculator. I'm just going to hit divided by 0.06. Now I don't have a negative symbol here to use. Okay, so my calculators tell me -4, but I know that this result is +4 because as we divide two negatives, that result will be positive. X = 4. You can check that in the original equation. Believe it's going to check out just fine, therefore we say the solution set is 4. All right, students, it's a tougher section for us here. We've solved equations with decimals and fractions. You can choose to eliminate those decimals and fractions if you'd like to. The choice is yours, but just make sure that you show your work on those, okay?